This video is going to be my coverage of the 20th annual Tour of Felasco from my viewpoint. So this is a ride that's at San Felasco State Park. It's 8 minutes from my house. And so I'm taking my time this morning because it was cold. 32 degrees Fahrenheit this morning, according to my thermometer. That's 0 for you Celsius people. The ride is not a race. You can start whenever you want. They say to start between 7:30 and 8:30. We're going to start at 9:30 because I wanted it to warm up a little bit. It's a 50-mile event that you can make a metric century, and it's broken up into stages. All right, we are here. The good thing about starting later is I won't hit a lot of the crowds. This ride draws a variety of skill levels. So you either need to start early or late to avoid the bottlenecks. Number plate on and GoPro on. Ready to roll. First, I have to finish my hot herbal tea. I'm going to use my Suga hip pack today. All right, we're rolling. So I'm doing this video as a voiceover because I had this flimsy little number plate on the front of the bike and it was rattling around like crazy. I forgot to take it off, so no worries. We're doing it as a voiceover. So we're rolling out here right at the beginning and it is cold. I have a vest on and then some leg warmers and arm warmers, and actually 5 minutes in I was fine. There's a little hill here at the beginning. This is not part of the normal San Felasco single track. If you did this event, you'll remember it. It's right at the beginning. They have you go up this power line hill, make a U-turn, and then come back down it. Now we're starting the single track. So these are trails that I ride all the time. And so I'm very familiar with the single track. But as you can see, even though it was cold, it was a beautiful day. This is kind of a climb section. And what was cool about this route is there was a lot of climbing. I'll talk about all the climbing that I had at the end of the video, but it was a fair amount. And like I said, it was a beautiful day. What was nice is the humidity was not quite as high as it can be in Florida. And so, you know, even though it was cold, it was very bearable. And so, like I said at the beginning of the video, I started late. I want to say it was around 9:15, 9:30. Most of the riders had already gotten out on the course. And I was hoping that I didn't have to pass a lot of people, but I did have to pass a lot of people because I was keeping a pretty good pace. Like I said, I ride these trails all the time. I didn't want to be out there all day. I had stuff to do, so I was keeping a pretty good pace. And what was cool is later on in the ride, I think I mentioned it at the beginning of the video, that my son joined me for the last 2 stages. So if you did not do the metric century, it was a 5-stage event, with the second one being the longest. I'll talk about that when I get to it. So we are just rolling through the beautiful single track. And going back to how I was dressed, one thing that I do, okay, we're rolling into the first rest stop. So you do the first stage, and then you come to this rest stop. Then you go back out, do stage 2, and you come right back to that same rest stop. So now I'm rolling out. I didn't spend a lot of time at that rest stop. I had only been riding about 8 miles, so less than an hour, and I did not want to hit all of those crowds that were hanging out at the rest stop. So I hung out for maybe just 30 seconds to a minute. I got a bite of my sandwich, and then I got going again. This is a steep hill. This is about a 20% grade, and it's not part of the normal single track, although it's right next to the single track. And usually it's overgrown, but because it's winter and they probably cleared it out for this event, they had this hill really nice. And so, yes, there are 20% grades in Florida. Now continuing on for the single track portion. Going back to what I was saying, what I do is I put those hand warmers, the ones that like you peel off, you open them up, peel them off, and then they stay hot for like 8 hours. So I had toe covers on, and I put those between the toe covers and the shoes, and it was great. I did not have any problems with my toes getting cold, and that's really my main issue when it's this cold. So this is a trail, if you're familiar with San Felasco, it's called NRAT, night ride access trail. So we're heading very close to the ranger station. And it's a cool trail. It's actually open now year round. It's just not a lot of people ride it because it's an out and back. So it's maybe 1.5 miles, 2 miles out and back, but it's a great trail. So if you ride San Felasco, ride this. We need to keep it beaten down and rideable because it's a fun little trail. But like I said, it goes over to the ranger station, and every once in a while they do night rides, guided night rides. You cannot ride San Felasco at night by yourself. On a non-guided ride, you have to be part of the guided ride. And so this trail is the trail that they use. So you leave the ranger station and do this trail, which is why it's called the Night Ride Access Trail. All right, one last thing about the cold weather gear I was wearing. So I pretty much had tights on, long sleeve shirt, and actually a set of clothing that I'm testing right now from a company that kind of surprised me. And then I had a vest. And for gloves, I had on some gloves that were, I'd say, good for around 40 degrees. They were a little cold in the beginning. The problem with the thicker gloves, it's really hard to mountain bike with. I've got some really good specialized gloves with 2 layers, but they're just too thick. So we're heading out. We're on stage 2, and this ended up being the longest stage. It was like 11 or 12 miles, and it was a good one, though. There was some really good stuff on stage 2. So we're back now with where the hiking trails are. So San Felasco is broken up into 2 main sections. There's the hiking trail side. It's like a 7,500 acre state park. It's huge, but you don't get to ride the hiking or ride on the hiking trails much. All right, this single track is only open for the tour, and it is some of the best single track. It has a really good downhill here, and then you go up a huge steep uphill. The problem with this downhill is I got behind some guys that were going slow, and I really just wanted to kind of bomb it. And it was kind of loamy because it doesn't get ridden that much, and we had some rain recently, and it was just beautiful. I kind of wish I had gone back up and ridden it again, but it is what it is. All right, now we're making this right-hand turn and going up this really steep hill. This is probably the longest hill, especially for the steepness on this course. And this is kind of one of those hills where you don't think there's hills like this in Florida, but there are. It's kind of gravelly. I think they use it for accessing these power lines, which is why they have it with gravel so trucks can get up it. But it's kind of hard to keep your traction, as you saw that guy lose his traction. Then they have these little cement things to help give traction to trucks. Because this is steep. I mean, this is like probably 15-20% grade. And it goes for quite a while. I love this hill. I really wish we could ride this hill more often, but it's like I said, it's only open on the tour because it's on the hiking trail side. And there's like a fence that divides the bike trails from the hiking trail side. So we're back on the hiking trails, and the hiking trails are mainly like double track. So it's nice because you can pass people. You could just and they're smooth. They're super smooth. I mean, you could ride this on a gravel bike and be totally fine. Whereas the mountain bike trails are more rooty. Some people have done this ride on a gravel bike, but it's pretty bumpy. I heard someone say last weekend that they've done it and they would never do it again. So probably not recommended. But you could ride these hiking trails fine on a gravel bike or cyclocross bike. So still cruising on stage 2. We are coming back into some of the bike trails. These bike trails I ride a lot. They're kind of in the back, but I still ride them quite a bit. There's, again, for those of you who are not familiar with San Felasco, there's like 35 miles of bike trails at San Felasco, which is why they have the horse trails and the hiking trails as part of this ride, because they put together like a 65-mile ride if you want to do the metric century, or 63. Again, this is pretty far in the back of San Felasco. This is probably the furthest bike trail in the back. It takes a while to get back to this one, probably like an hour to get back to it, but it's one of the trails that I try to do on the weekends because it's too far back to do it on my lunch ride. And you've probably heard me mention in my videos before, but San Felasco, this is my state park that I do a lot of my bike testing, and I do a lot of it on my lunch rides because it's right behind my office, and I get out here a lot. So still on the bike trail, still on stage two. This, like I said, this one was like 11, 12 miles, so it was a pretty long stage, but it had some of the best variety on the course because you mix in the hiking trails. We're going to be coming up to the horse trails later on in the tour, and there's actually some really good horse trails. One of the problems with horse trails in Florida is because we have sand in the soil, they get really chewed up. But some of the ones on this course are more grassy, so they don't get just torn up with horse hooves. I did ask that person if they were good. I'm cutting out all the audio because the number plate was just bouncing around so much, but you just get my voice for this one. So you can see also the trees have a lot of variety at San Felasco. One thing I really like about riding out here too. This place, like these trees right here that are pretty bare in the summertime, it is just super thick. And it's warming up now too. Like it's probably in the low to mid 40s, which actually ended up being perfect. And I think we're gonna do Conquistador at some point on this. I think it is after stage two. I'll talk about Conquistador. That's one of my favorite trails out here. So still cruising to the second rest stop, I believe. I don't think we've hit it yet. We're still on stage two. I think I got a lot of my video from stage two just because it had a lot of good variety. I didn't mention the bike I was on, so I'm riding my Niner RKT9 RDO, race day optimized. And it's a good bike for this. It's a perfect bike for San Felasco. I've got a 120 fork in the front, Fox step cast, and it's got 90 mil travel in the back. I've mentioned before that bike is a little dated in the geometry. Just the head angle so steep. It's like a 70-degree head angle, even with a 120 fork. But it's super snappy in the handling. Saw some guys back there in shorts. It's still pretty cold. Like I wouldn't wear shorts. I've got my tights on, and I never got hot with my tights on because it never got much above 40. All right, we're cruising to the second, after finishing stage two, back to the same rest stop that we were at before. And now we're heading out on stage three. So stage three will bring you back to the parking lot where you started, and that's where you eat lunch. And that's where my son met me. You can see the signs there. It's got colors and numbers, so you know what stage you're on, and you just follow the colors for that stage. And I have to say, like, they marked this thing out really well. This is the second year they've done it like this in stages. So in theory, you could cut out and do, maybe stages 1 and 3, skip 2. So you can kind of put a different route together if you don't want to do the whole 50 miles. I love this section. I love the trees here. Still got some fall colors on the trees, but I mean, just clear blue skies, low humidity, nice temperatures. Like I said, low to mid 40s. Kind of temperatures that's really nice when you're riding. When you stop, you can get cold, but still going through the trees here. This is the horse trails. So these trails are not typically open during the year except for this ride. So it's a really nice area. It's pretty hilly. Those horse trails have some pretty good hills. Okay, so now I think we're on Conquistador, which is considered the only black diamond trail at San Felasco just because of the routes and the elevation change. It's kind of hard to see, but the elevation change here, the hills are like 15% on some of them. Like this one, this is probably at least 15% grade. But it just kind of goes up and down these hills. The whole trail is like 3 miles, but it's a really good trail. It's gotten a little more eroded over the years, but they've done a good job with trying to maintain or keep back the erosion. You can see more and more people just kind of stopping because we're like 32 miles in, I think, at this point. So people are starting to get tired. My legs are kind of starting to feel it. I didn't really start to feel it until stage 4. So again, still cruising on Conquistador. I'm kind of glad they had this trail before lunch, because after lunch your legs just feel heavier. I mean, you sat there and ate food. It's a gravel road that is not really part of the bike trails. You can access it, but it's just not part of the normal bike trail loops. And now we're following the purple sign, stage 3, back to the parking lot. This is the power line road by the main intersection at the top of the hill, if you're familiar with San Felasco. It's a good little downhill. Rumor has it the park's thinking about putting a jump line down this. I don't know if that's just a rumor or if that's true. All right, we're cruising back to the lunch stop. We finished stage 3. Cuban food from one of my favorite local restaurants. It's good stuff. Finished with lunch. Now I'm chilling in the car because Dawson's going to come join me. He said he wasn't going to come because he wasn't going to be ready in time. He was doing something else. So I told him I'd wait. So I was getting a little chilly waiting out there. I got a little sweaty. So with the wind, it warmed up to 48, but the wind's blowing. So I was getting a little chilly. So I'm just going to kind of hang out in the car. Man, look at that hair. That is awesome. Had my skull cap on the entire ride. So yeah, we're going to wait for Dawson. So he's going to join me for the last 18 miles. So I've got 3 hours and 12 minutes of riding, and I've got 34, but I've been hearing everybody say they've got like 36 and 38, the ones who have wheel sensors. So I think this ride is going to be longer than 50, which means the metric century would probably be more like 65, 70. So I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, I'm excited about doing this with Dawson for the last 2 stages. He's here. He's ready to roll.
You're making a YouTube video?
I'm always making YouTube videos. All right, rolling out on stage 4, following the orange sign. So I got Dawson behind me, rolling out on a trail called Cottontail right by the parking lot. Pretty flat trail, but fairly fun, especially right in the beginning here. It's pretty flowy. So Dawson has never done this event, never done any stage of it. So this is the first time that he's done this. And he is going to do a 50 miler with me coming up, the Croom 50 mile at the Croom Fest. So I'm looking forward to that. So Dawson is taking his time warming up. I kept waiting for him and waiting for him and waiting for him. Finally, I said, buddy, I'm just going to meet you up ahead. And so I went back to my normal pace, and I am cruising. Just, like I said, the pace that I kept this whole ride is kind of tempo. I think we're on a horse trail here. Yeah, this is a horse trail. This trail is so good. Again, it's only open during the tour, but it's got some pretty good elevation change, some good downhills, especially coming the other way. Going the way I'm going here, you hit this uphill. And this is a pretty steep uphill. I would say this one's 12 to 15%. It's a good downhill. But like I said, a horse trail that's not too chewed up by horses, so it was in good shape. I think one thing that helps too is the leaves that cover the trail. And this is the end of that horse trail, little downhill section, and we come out to some double track coming up. But yeah, going back to Dawson, so he's going to do the Croom 50 miler with me, and that'll be his first 50 miler on a mountain bike. We'll see how he does. For those of you who watch my channel, he's a dirt jumper. He does slope style. Pretty skilled at what he does, but he's also a really good cross country rider with some good fitness. I was kind of wishing he'd get more into it. All right, so we've taken a ride on this double track, and you see some sand there. There was not much sand on this entire course. That's probably the most sand we hit on the entire course. A lot of people, when they think of Florida, they think of really sandy trails. Not the case. This is a steep uphill that we actually hit on stage 2 coming down it. So we're heading back over to the hiking trails. And like I said, this is a good one. I mean, and by now, you got probably 40 miles in the legs, or maybe a little bit more. And so these hills, they're starting to sting a little bit. Some people taking a break. So we're heading up to the last rest stop. Dawson is still behind me. I don't know where he is because like a good dad, I just took off. Okay, we're rolling up to the rest stop. And then I called Dawson when I was hanging out by the fire. And after I'd gotten some nutrition, so at all these rest stops, they've got heat. So I'm warming up by the fire, and the fire was really welcomed. I mean, it's still in the low 40s because it's dropping now. So now when there's Dawson in front of me, so he told me at the rest stop after I waited for him that he was going to drop me, and we're on stage 5 now. So right after that rest stop is stage 5. So we're heading out on stage 5, and Dawson tells me at the rest stop he's going to drop me. And he sure did, because I had like 47 miles in my legs right about here, and he had about 7 miles in his legs. So yeah, he after that section right there, he just picked it up. Another nice section with the trees. So this is a road kind of coming from the ranger station. That last rest stop was the ranger station, and that in-rat trail that I told you about earlier in the video, that's to my right. And so now we're cruising on this gravel road. But yeah, really pretty trees through here, especially in the wintertime. Just the bare trees and the blue sky. It's beautiful. So we're pretty close to the end now. So we're back on the normal bike trails. I cannot even remember what trail this is, but I think this is part of Tongue Nut. I think this is the end of Tongue Nut. But yeah, these again, back on the normal bike trails. So these are the trails I ride all the time. Dawson, I mean, he's cruising. He's like at least... That's not him in front of me. That's someone else. Dawson is probably a good minute, 30 seconds to a minute in front of me. So he's just cruising. And I never caught him, and I didn't try. After I saw him take off, he just dropped a hammer. But yeah, like I said, it's starting to cool off, so it's probably back down to the low 40s. And it's getting later in the afternoon. This is the longest it's ever taken me to finish this tour. I'm usually done by like 1 o'clock. I usually start early and I'm done early. The climb here, feeling this climb, it's starting to sting. I'm probably 52 miles, 53 miles into this ride. Ended up being longer, so I think it was like 55, 57 miles total. So it was longer. I had lost my wheel sensor on a trip early this year, and I haven't gotten another one yet. And so last bit of single track, we are really close to the parking lot. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this 2023 edition of the Tour of Felasco, rolling back into the parking lot. Had over 3,000 feet of climbing, and it was a really great ride. So thanks for watching. If you like it, give it a thumbs up, and I'll catch you in the next video.